Women in Leadership, brought to you by Heroncode, the management consultancy for what happens next. For more information, you can visit heroncode.com. Ladies and gents, welcome to another podcast of Heroncode Women in Leadership. Hope you've been enjoying the season so far. I know I have, because I get to sit down with incredible women with incredible stories. And today I'm joined by a social entrepreneur, CEO and founder of Sofii Ai, founder of UAE Future Innovation Founders as well. She's a serial entrepreneur building empathetic tech, strategic advisor to startups, corporates and government. One of her projects, which we're going to be getting into as well, is Hub 71 in Abu Dhabi. I want to welcome to the podcast Kristina Frolova. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm wonderful. You look amazing. I told you this already, but I have to mention it.
You're so wonderful. Thank you. It's a Sunday and we're working people on a Sunday, and we're enjoying this conversation. Now, we discovered we met each other so many times, but this is the first time we get to actually sit down and have a conversation. Kristina, it's been amazing to receive your bio and actually understand your journey so much more. You've been everywhere. You've done so much personally and professionally. But I think it's really important for us to take it back to the very, very beginning. So born in Latvia, I believe.
Yes, that's right.
So
in Riga.
Tell us more about your childhood. How was it? And what was it like living in Latvia?
Well, that's such a rare question people ask, but I think that's so important because your childhood so much directs who you are, right? Mm-hmm. So Latvia is a small country. It's in Europe. We're just less than 2 million people. But I just had this conversation with a friend of mine that, there's something common among all of us. We have this passion to aesthetics. We have a beautiful architecture, wonderful nature, like proper 4 seasons. So I grew up in Riga with my sister, my mom, and my dad. So I have a younger sister. She's in tech as well.
Oh, wow.
An incredible woman. And then when I was 19, I moved. But before that, I think one of the things which make me choose the path of being entrepreneur and in general to, go a different direction, which usually people would take, is that in school, I never felt like fully belonging. And I had to find my space, because I couldn't really relate to the interests, which other, not schoolers, guys from the school, which they would take to. Yeah. So I did sports actually as well. So I played volleyball for about 12 years.
Oh, wow.
I can't say I was the best in that, but I really loved that. Because when I do something, I try to obviously to put maximum of myself into that. So it's teach me a lot. I think the sport is amazing because it just helps you to, to be dedicated. And if you need to wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning and then walk for 1 hour at the snowy winter to get to that, gym to do your, to do the exercises and then play and, then participate in any whatever championship, you do it. Yeah. And this is exactly what you need as a skill when you grow up, right? So I don't know. Tell me, what else do you want to know? Because I can't.
Well, it's
talk
so
about
interesting because you said, you said, and I quote, I went for something different. So what was the norm? What was the culture in Latvia? Were your parents very supportive of everything and anything you wanted to do? And then furthermore, to add to that question, 2 girls, no boys. So what was that kind of, the female empowerment at home? How was that?
The parents were super supportive. They never told me what to do. So I had a basically white list of choose whatever you want and we're going to support you. And it's until now and today. It's like, the saying when they say parents like a wings. So that's my wings for sure.
Wow.
Because I wouldn't become who I am today, and I'm still such at the early stage of my journey. But like knowing that whatever you do, you're always will be supported back home, and they always have a place to get back to and come back. And now, especially with my daughter, they're supporting as well, So I think like without that, having that, it will be much harder. Like we're a very simple family, but we grew up in full of love house. And my mom and my dad always did everything what they could, the best for the kids, for us, for me and my sister. So we always will have the best things you know, even they wouldn't allow something for themselves, or wouldn't buy, or wouldn't do, experience something. They're always focused so much on us, you know. And we were always very different with my sister. I think like we're very different personalities, but like growing together in the same room, that was quite a challenge, you know.
Well, and you've both gone into the same industries, I guess, which is really, really fascinating. But what's incredible is that at a young age, you moved to Ireland at the age of 19. How was that? How did that happen? Ireland, of all places. Tell me more.
Quite early, I understood that I need to start building up my career. So I tried a lot of different things in Riga. And I tried different jobs and tried to find a job. And it was extremely hard at that time. So for those who doesn't know, like Latvia, after the Soviet Union, we have like 45% of Russian speakers. And then we have the rest Latvian speakers, right? So it's a country which is like half and half, almost half and half divided. I think it's less now. So while growing up, we went through a lot of reforms, like a language reform. So my parents are Russian. However, I was born in Latvia, right? So I speak Latvian, I have my passport. So for me, Latvia was always a home. So it's never was about the language. It's not about that, right? When you grew up. I did actually, before leaving, I think that was a fact as well. So I joined the school council and became a school president, so president of the school council. And this is when I had a chance to get exposed to different projects outside of Latvia. So one of them, in Europe, we have a Youth in Action. This is a project developed by European Union, which basically picks up the leaders from different schools and bring them together and help them learn new skills. And one of the skills which I was learning was about how to organize the activities and through the playing teach youth or impact youth, thinking rather than about, you know, parties and drugs or alcohol, think about, you know, sports, or think about bringing the impact. And I think that's affected a lot as well, because when I went for those, and I went to France for the first time, when I went to France and I met other leaders from other countries who actually think like me, who doesn't enjoy that not tradition, but, you know, growing up in a small school in Riga, there was like a lot around partying rather than doing social projects, let's put it this way, right? So, and then when I went, I realized, wow, it's not just me who doesn't like it. There are some other people who want to change it. So it's not about me not belonging. It's me being not in the right place, maybe. So maybe I need to go and search for the people who think like me. And I think this is what, this is tough to understand when you are a child, right?
Yeah.
Because you imagine the whole world is this house, and then this area, and then this little city, right? And until you go out, you don't understand it's not just you. There are other people, you know. So traditional path would be, you know, going to school and, you know, getting the job and, you know, just earning enough to leave, basically. It's changed a lot now, because when I fly back and I see, you know, I look at the back at people who I used to grow up with, they have an amazing, like some of them has an amazing careers as well, right? But at that point it felt unreal, you know, because there was no many opportunities back in Riga. Now we have Accenture and Booking and PwC. At that point, I think we had only one of them, you know, so there was not much you could do from kind of going into innovation, I would say, and tech. And this is what I always wanted to.
So it's amazing that you found like-minded individuals in these brand new communities and societies, but also there must have been like a culture shock with it as well in these different countries. So how did you deal with that? Because it's kind of good, and then there's pros and cons, isn't there?
That's right. You know, by the time when I went, actually, by the way, my English wasn't good. So I'm not sure how is it now. I'm still struggling, but
it's like amazing.
Thank you. But when I went, I realized that actually it's not about English. Because first of all of us were coming from different countries. Everyone had a very strong accent, and they were speaking as they could at this point, because nobody had English as a, you know, first language. But then I realized that there are other qualities which can help us to communicate, and I just discovered within myself that the empathy helps me a lot. And then when I put other people needs, interests first, at least when I communicate with them, and that helps me a lot to understand them.
Right.
To understand that background, to understand how they think, how they make decisions. And then it helps me to understand what I should be doing, right? Can get connected. So I think it was shock, but in very positive way of saying it. Because I think it was more like a discovery, right?
Yeah.
And then since then, I've got so much passion about the neuroscience and behavioral science, understanding what makes people choose certain things over other things and experiences. So what drives them? Because when you remove that layer of language, you know, there is something else, and there is something else in common among all of us, but there is something, and there's a lot of things, obviously, which are we all of us bringing from our background, from our childhood. So yeah.
So it's interesting. So you were essentially traveling at that point once you'd left Latvia. So Ireland, France. At what point did you realize exactly what it is that you wanted to do?
I think I started to search for what I'm gonna do quite early. Like I started work in general. Like I think I was 12. My first job was when I was 12, and then I was working over summer. So when I was 15, my dad had a cleaning company, so we did a lot of different type of jobs. So if you need somebody to help you to wash the windows, I can do it as well, or do the floor waxing. So but when I moved to Dublin, because I already I did a few things in Latvia, right? So I was a president of the school council. I actually did some social project for kids, for orphan houses. So it was together with the one party there. So I was thinking, and you know what? I will come to Ireland, and with my background, I will be, I'll find something.
Yeah.
It's going to be easy. But it wasn't like that. It took me 2 years. I did, 12 different jobs.
Wow.
Like everything. I was a journalist, I was a cleaner, I was a babysitter, I worked in a shop, I worked in a coffee shop, was a supervisor, was translating the texts. So so many things before I managed to. It's not because I was just searching for myself, because I couldn't get it, because a new country, when you come without the experience, right, and you are young, it's just, if you don't have somebody who can take you and put there, it takes time to build this. So that's for everyone who usually makes this choice. It's it's tough. It's going to be tough. You need to kind of prepare yourself, kind of give yourself a time. Okay, my expectation would be, okay, let's say if I'm a new country, I'll give myself 2 years to figure it out,
Yeah.
But now looking back with what I'm building, I'm realizing that all of those jobs, everything I did, because all of them were consumer facing, but I was part of the business. So I always was like an in between. It's actually allowed me to see things which you might not see when you are just in one kind of a domain, right?
Yeah.
And it helps me as well to relate to people with the different statuses, different income levels, because to all of these jobs, I met with a lot of different people, right? Different backgrounds, different culture as well. So before I started working, not even with Google directly, I worked with the vendor first. It took a good few years to get, and I was studying, by the way. I was still studying back in Latvia.
Oh.
So I was working full-time
and
in Dublin
studying.
and studying, flying back to Latvia, doing my exams and everything in advance, because otherwise, how?
Yeah.
And I remember going to each teacher in school. I'm not sure if I can talk about it, because I think it wasn't allowed for them to do, but they basically ticking the box that I am attending full-time studies, and I wasn't there. So I had to talk to each and every one, which is 5 teachers every semester, right? Asking them, explaining to them, that I'm living in Ireland right now because I need to earn, and this is the only place where I can, get a job. So if I wouldn't have my friends back then, I have now they're all around Europe, but who were supporting me a lot to prepare for it and to study for it. Yeah, so working full time and then studying nighttime and then flying back doing the exams. But then I did everything full time. I didn't do part-time studies, so I kind of saved.
Yeah.
That helped me to save the time a little bit.
But so then 2 years of doing everything and anything that you possibly could, learning so much, broadening your horizons, and what was that moment then? Was it a connection that you had made? Was it someone that had helped you in the industry get you your first role be it that you really wanted in the industry?
No, I remember I finished I've got my bachelor degree. And I was like, okay, now I have everything, right? So I have experience and I have my degree on hand.
Yeah.
And it was quiet period. Again, 3 months, nothing. I applied for all of the different type of jobs and nothing.
Wow.
And then one day I had 3 interviews. So one was for like a chain of restaurants. Now it's a chain. That time there was just 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And then another was for the school, English school. They needed so both needed the supervisors because I've got a degree in international business. So business and commercial diplomacy. That's what I studied. And the third one was like working with the customers, but through the phone calls, right? And I was like, when I did all of the interviews, something which didn't make sense to me is that the last role, which is the third one, which is the customer support, I had like 5 or 7. My mind probably is playing with me now, but I think like 5, maybe 5 or 7 like interviews. And I was like, why? Like, it's like, it's just a customer support job, right? So why you're having so many...
So intense.
Yeah, so intense. And then I waited again, I think a month or something. And then I got the offers from all of them in the same day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I was like, the supervisor jobs were much better paid and a better location. And it's like and both of them was about communicating to people because I knew that's part of it. Like I always wanted to connect, like being among people, supporting them and then connecting tech to it, But then I thought, there's something else there. Why this job had so many interviews and like and plus that was for me the connection I could have it with technology. So with tech. And not really corporate. It wasn't about corporate for me. It's more, it was about tech. Yeah, and I remember my day. I was like, okay, I'll go for it. And I went for it. And then my first day, I'm coming to the office and I'm arriving and the door is open. And I look up and I see the Google sign above the reception desk.
Wow.
I'm like, what?
Now it makes sense.
Yes.
Wow.
Because we weren't, so the HR and, recruiter and the whole team weren't allowed to say because obviously the companies, I will not be mentioning certain names because until now, like I have a certain contracts which I cannot, information I cannot disclose, but like big companies, big corporates, they work with different vendor companies and then sometimes you cannot say it. So you can be, let's say, client somewhere in UK and you can be running, let's say, business, let's say multiple shops and you need somebody to, your ads are not running. So you will find the phone, like you will find the phone number, you will call them and the people will tell you, hi, it's Google, how can I help? Right. But that's actually people who are not being officially fully part of the Google, but fully trained, prepared, equipped with the tools and everything, because then the company can scale much faster and attract the talent. So.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. So that must have been like a pinch me moment when you walked in. Yeah. And how was that? How was the culture? I mean, working, albeit a vendor and albeit a third party, but how was that for you?
Good question as well. Because I can compare now, right? Because I've been indirectly, Google and Facebook as well. So there's a bit different cultures. I think it's always, the company is a big thing. Like the direction the company is taking is a big thing. However, your direct management and the people you work with and how you're taking responsibility for your own clear communication and your appetite to grow and learn, I think that's what affects you the most. Because I remember that was a wow, like aha moment for me when I just like first or second week, I was in office and I was still like, I felt like I'm having like a dose, I don't know what dopamine there because like, I still can't believe I'm there.
Yeah.
Like I still can't believe I was selected. But I looked at the people who were working and I'm like, they're so tired. They're so upset. They're not really motivated because I mean, the customer support job is extremely hard. Like your SLAs are extremely hard. Just for example, like you need to pick up your phone within the 15 seconds. Your workflow manager who look after, where the calls go and where the emails go or the chats go, they need to monitor each second by second, each person. So if somebody needs to run to the washroom, they have only 3 minutes to do that.
Wow.
And they need to put themselves on specific code on the phone. So I started like that, right? And then, but I've learned a few things. One is that how you value time. Because when you know that, in 5 seconds, 30 seconds, 3 minutes, you can do that much, you're like, wow, then the whole time value is very different to you, you know? And then the second thing is that I've realized that in this environment, for me to thrive is the only way is kind of throw myself to everything, which might not be really interested to other people. Interesting. And so, because I thought my logic was, I was 22, like, I had no experience in corporate, but my logic was, okay, one day people would need help in that area, or they would need somebody to have expertise in that area. And I will be there. So I'll get best at it and wait. So, and this is how from customer support, I became a subject matter expert in policy, in billing, in risk, analytics, multi-product. So I kind of covered all of the areas within the business. And at some point people started needing help. And then I became a part of the whole team for SMEs. So we did a lot of amazing projects. But that's what, like this element of either I learn myself, not sit and wait until somebody will come to me and say, okay, this is now your scope of job. Yes, you have a scope of job always, and it could take like 100% of your energy and your, capacity. But if you want to grow, you always need to add those 20 extra percent. That's my, and that's always worked for me in corporate.
Yeah. And one of the key things that you said was the team around you. And, you start building your own teams. So how was that? What is it that you look out for when building a team? Because you now, from a very young age, had a vision, had a feel, had a natural knowing of the human connection. So building the team around you must have been incredibly important.
Any team, like until today, what I look in people is, genuine people first. So because genuine and being strong enough to admit the mistakes and admit the successes as well. Because then... And the empathy, super important. Being resilient, that's obviously at that stage was one of the most important qualities. My first team was actually, we were doing evening shift and night shift. So imagine somebody would need to start at 3 p.m. and they would finish at 11, right? And then there were another people who were starting very late at 9 p.m. and only finishing by the morning.
Wow.
So you really need to be dedicated and you need to be self-driven and to be able to work under the kind of a I don't know how to say it, self-control kind of, so you don't need to self-supervision basically. And trust, because I had cases when I had to come over in the middle of the night or stay overnight, obviously. So because I was either an evening or night shift with them, but sometimes I was coming by the surprise. But even when I was doing this, like the team was always performing. There were some cases when when I had to provide a kind of a feedback and provide it fast and very clear. But this transparency and communication, and then when everyone feels themselves as being part of the team, and this can be only built. Like you cannot create it by saying it. That, hey, let's be a team, right?
Right.
It doesn't work like that.
It takes time.
Either you lead by example and you with them side by side and you show that you admit if you did something wrong, or let's say you took a wrong decision and you admit what we did great, and you highlight both parts, then the people feel included in the process. You give them, you trust them, you give them responsibility. Sometimes they don't stay. Yes, sometimes just people are not right for the certain role, right? And then, but then you move on, and then you appreciate each other's time and energy, and then you bring other people on board who actually would find opportunity for them as well to grow there,
Yeah, but being a team leader is tough because you talk about, having empathy on a human to human level, but you're also there professionally to do a job. So how did you find that balance? Because it's something I personally struggle with a lot.
Yes. I think the communication, that's the key. Setting the expectations, making sure we're doing everything in time, and providing the feedback. Like, later on, I've learned that it's called fast feedback. Later on, I've learned it's called running a crucial conversations, and what are the scripts, which work best for it. So now, I did like I do speak about it sometimes, you know, I'm sometimes get invited to corporates to share, you know, how do you do that? But at that point I had to learn a lot of the things just, you know, by feeling other people. But at the same time, you're right. When you have those, we had 40 KPIs. So 40 is like your timing, your quality of your job, your communication skills. So you were evaluated by 40 different criterias. And as a team leader, it means that it's not, obviously you're not only communicating to your team, but to other team leaders and the top management as well. So this is, it's a different communication, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think in both ways, which helps, it's the clarity. We had amazing workflows, I should say. So we were equipped with amazing practices, like best practices, which Google shared with us. So for just one example, the way we're doing the reports every week, we would talk about highlights and lowlights and challenges and risks and opportunities and asks.
Wow.
So, and you can see that from this, you build basically a bouquet, the full palette of what happens in business without hiding anything, but showing good and bad.
Right.
And I think this culture of showing good and bad, it's very important because you can learn and grow from something which is not good enough, but you can make something which is good even better and stronger, right? And focus on that. Make sure you don't forget about it.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. And I think that we speak about like good and bad culture, and I think that's it's more of a collaborative process, isn't it? Then it's not just one-sided.
Yes.
It's everyone in the team working together.
Yeah.
You know, everyone talks nowadays, especially about, you know, women in tech and women in innovation, and you know the statistic is rising, more and more women in higher positions. But when you were working with Google, when you were working, you know, with Meta, also known as Facebook, what was the scope like of women then? Did you feel like the only woman in the room? What was the, you know, the feeling for you there as an individual?
Oh my gosh, I had such different experiences with both companies. And I get back to, I think, management and leadership. Like I had the best support ever, and in the same time, in the same company, I had my worst days in corporate.
Wow.
And so at some point, I was managing a team. I had to lead the team, very diverse when it comes to culture. So people from Middle East, from Turkey, from Russia, from Israel, South Africa, everyone together. And I came there, I was still young, like I was 24, I think, at that stage. And there was a certain policy in-house that you can get this role only by getting promoted and being with the company for a while. And it wasn't my case because I was invited to lead it because of my previous experience, because leadership believed a lot in me that I will be able to, out of that, create from something which is emerging, create something which is already strong. But that was tough. Because it's the first time when I faced that the big blocker is that I'm a woman at this role.
Wow.
There was and there is no way I can even describe it. It's like, it's something between the lines. It's like, you know, either it's a culture of people who grow up not being able to see strong women at the certain positions because before it wasn't common in those countries to have women in those positions, right? So so I cannot blame anyone. It's purely their background and experience, right? And maybe, yes, it comes with their interest of learning and adapting to new things. But sometimes people are not ready to adopt. Not everyone adopts easily, right? So it took for me, like, I would say 3 quarters, which is like, 9 months to kind of build the relationship with my own team. So it's not only, and the way I actually did it, I optimized a lot of the processes. When I came, certain things didn't make sense for me. And I felt we're so much disconnected as a team because we had to work with many like cross-functional partners, which is people doing very different type of jobs, but then kind of focusing on the same markets, right? So in order to kind of build these relationships with my own team and trust with my own team and make them believe that, by the way, I do have some, I have intents to help, and I have intents not for me to thrive, but for them to thrive and for all of us to move together and perform, right?
Yeah.
So I had to kind of find the allies in that company within the different teams who would support me and advocate for me and from my own team.
Wow, okay.
It's not common, but, and I said it was one of the most challenging times in corporate because like I didn't know where to run and there was no place to run. You either give up and you allow people to kind of put you on that spot, like on that place, or you actually say, no, I know what I'm here for. I have certain knowledge and I will utilize my energy to, to bring you to success. But, like anyone who been in, like not only corporate, but in general, anyone who takes a new job, you always has this imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah, of course.
So when you're battling with that, it's like, okay, where is this? What is the right answer, right? What should I follow? And this is the only belief in yourself can help you to, or people outside of organization who remember who you are, can remind you of, right? Of what are your strengths? And I think until today, it's one of the most important because in general, like entrepreneurship is tough, right? Sometimes we push and we push and push and push and we're like, okay, when is this moment when maybe I should stop? How would I know? So that's why I always need people but to have them, you need to be genuine yourself.
Yes.
To share with them, right? Who you are, really who you are.
Yeah. You have to be incredibly self-aware as well as to what you bring to the table. And so you left corporate. We're talking like it just happened so quickly, but you left corporate and you decided to, go at it on your own. Tell us more about that. That takes a lot of courage. It's a lot of bravery. What did you decide to do?
You're right. It feels like it's one day you just give your laptop back and your badge back and that's it, right? Yeah. Until now, I remember this moment. Because when you are building 10 years, I was there. But it didn't happen like that. For me, I was preparing for it because I have a quite high responsibility. I have a daughter. She's 7 now. At that point, she was, 2 years back, right? So she was 5. My parents, and I'm financially responsible for all of us. So it's 4 of us.
Yeah.
So for me, leaving a job where I know, I felt 90% of guaranteed that I will have a success because I kind of already cracked the code.
Yeah.
How you grow there, right?
Yeah.
And so I was leaving Meta at that point. For me, it's still Facebook because when I left, it was Facebook. So I still got to be calling it Facebook. So... and I was leaving an amazing team. And this was actually the hardest part because I was the gaming team, because I was doing gaming at that point. The gaming team was just one of the best in my whole career. I think it's like when some people say you need to leave when you're your highest.
Yes.
I think this is what I've did. Of course, I could get, better positions, but the culture and the team I work with, appreciation I had, knowledge I had and insights I had and everything utilized to help clients grow, to find the next big thing is just, I just felt myself so much in the right place.
Yeah.
So comfortable. Then to leave was completely black and white, right? But the reason for me to leave, so when I moved from Google to Facebook, I already knew I will do my startup one day because the reason for that, it's not because I want to be an entrepreneur. Yes, I always wanted more, but the reason was that when you're for so long in tech, and not tech, any domain, right? Any business, you see things, you see certain patterns, and you see what works and what doesn't. There is something inside my mind constantly since I joined, which never made sense for me, which was the way both companies and others now as well work with data. So I was always questioning, like, because I was on marketing side, right? So after the whole customer experience, I moved to marketing, to new business, to sales. So I went through many different departments, and the last was gaming, right? The gaming, basically working with the gaming developers. And working with the gaming developers, it means that, somebody who does marketing with a small budgets of $100 a day to more can invest, will potentially, if their game is good and the business is good, they're going to be investing $3 million, $5 million a month dollars. So when you talk about this, rapid growth and those budgets, you see a lot of things when it comes to, algorithms, data, optimizations, and creatives and all of that. So for me, it was like always was a question, why the technology today, especially the way algorithms works, they're not aligned with the way we behave. So why are we tracking cache and cookies, and why are we following the clicks and views and installs, which is post factum of decision? And this was always a question, and I was always trying to kind of work around it and finding new opportunities within corporate. And I tried a few things with a few departments, and I realized that I cannot change it because the way it was built will not, I can't change it because it means we would need to change the whole algorithm.
Right.
Everything from the scratch, right? But then when the GDPR in States, the new data privacy was introduced. And then I got to know that, okay, the new changes on Apple side are coming, which is IDFA changes. I was like, okay, looks like there will be one day, and the way we work with data today and the way we collect data from people and the way we utilize this data and make recommendations will not work because we will just lose the access to this data.
Yeah.
And we didn't learn how to talk to consumers to ask them for this data. So me personally, I'm not agreeing with certain things. So I'm not agreeing with the fact that today, if you have an account in any of the social media, you either tolerate whatever they know about you or you erase everything. There is no anything in between.
Yeah.
There is no way for you to control it. There is no way for you to say, okay, this part of my life, I don't want to be exposed. Or this is actually not, it's not up to date anymore because I changed, I moved, I changed my job. I don't know, I changed my interests. So I was always thinking, okay, how do we find the new way of working with we call it like a first party data, right? So it's like, how do I find a way of asking you to tell me what you want, to tell me what you need, and then based on that, I can make the recommendations for both, for marketing, not for marketing, for anything. And then another element to that was when you're looking at the landscape today of the tools out there, digital tools, right? You see that we have everything to discover new products, new solutions, and content and services. You can read about it, you can look at it, you can try it on, right? You can see how to use it. But then, if you look through this whole funnel of decision making, basically, between having those all options, and now because of the paradox of choice, there's hundreds of options. Sometimes we don't choose anything just because of being overwhelmed, right? With how many are there. There is kind of an empty space when it comes to deciding what is there for you. Nobody helps you to do that. And then there's like, okay, you can purchase this. So there's in this whole chain, there's like an empty space and nobody's I can't say nobody because right now, obviously, we have certain tools, which let's say the simplest example would be Spotify, right? So to make it, to decide what you want to listen, you get the recommendation with Spotify, right? And until today, I don't see strong enough algorithms which would understand well enough you and what you need and like your behavioral patterns and will be able to suggest you what you need. So when I realized it's not there, the kind of a landscape, data collection landscape is changing. It's like, okay, somebody should build it. And I was hoping for somebody to build it for a few years. 2 years, I was literally waiting because I was like, I'm in corporate. I cannot be a person who's going to build the new algorithm. It just doesn't make sense. I'm coming from sales. I'm coming from marketing, right? So there's not believing in myself. Actually, kind of, I can't say postpone. I still believe I did everything in the right time.
Yeah.
but I didn't do it earlier. Plus, I never ran a business myself. So to go into entrepreneurship, like I wasn't sure about myself enough to, to run a business rather than running a team within the corporate. But then I realized that when the COVID started, I realized that corporate is not stable as well. Everything can change like this. People get redundant. Companies change their, pillars, focus areas, and their strategy.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? With everything which is happening, either I'm doing now, I'm doing this never. And then I ask myself, like, okay, like 20 years from now, if I'm not going to build it, and if nobody going to build it, am I happy with the whole digital environment of not having it? And then I imagine my daughter using the whole devices, technology out there, platforms, everything, the whole ecosystem, and not having it. I'm like, you know what? No, I'm not ready.
Yeah.
Like I feel, and there was another element to this. I felt like not doing this cost me more rather than finally doing this.
Yeah.
Because I would be thinking about it whole my life, because I feel is that I spotted something which people might not see, or if those who sees might think the same way as I am, like, okay, somebody else gonna do it.
Yeah.
And we shift this responsibility to somebody else's shoulders. So,
and you'll all just be waiting.
Yeah.
Waiting,
and everyone
waiting.
wait. Yeah.
And here we are, 2 years in now.
Yeah.
You've recently moved to the UAE. So you moved to the UAE with this, and
Yes.
you didn't move to Dubai, for the UAE. You moved, of course, for the product, for
Yes.
what you wanted to achieve. Briefly tell me how the last 2 years have been, being here in the UAE and finally, I guess, pursuing your calling.
I never doubted. And I think that's a big sign, because we're like, we say that we take decisions, right? And then, but it's not one decision. I usually, I don't know, I love to say it because I keep reminding this constantly to myself. We take those decisions every day. So let's say to be entrepreneur, you every day need to decide to be entrepreneur. Otherwise, you will just get back to something else, right? Same with the UAE. When I moved here, it was very different, because again, it's a new country where nobody knows me. Like, it's so similar to how it was for me in Latvia, when it's like, people knew me, and then I moved to Ireland, and it took me time to start doing those right steps in the right direction.
Yeah.
So when I moved here, it was the same. It was like, forget about the experience you have. Now you need to build your kind of, everything from the scratch. But no, of course it helped me. My background helped me, of course. Like definitely my LinkedIn today, the bio in my LinkedIn definitely helps when I reach out to other people. But I think few things what I love UAE for is how people are open to new things. I think when you show them that you have only best intent, they can relate to it and they want to be part of the story. Because in general, there are not many genuine people, at least who open up and who show their actual face and tell why and what they want. Because sometimes people think that, it's better hide or better pretend, and I don't want to go that direction. But when you give first and then maybe ask for something in return. But again, here, to feel myself fully comfortable, and I'm still I'm still feeling myself like nomad. Like it will take time to to settle down properly. But having your people around you, super important, and that's one of the reasons why I started the UAE Future Innovation Founders community, because I've realized that those founders, the change makers, the people who really want to build something changing the world for good, it's not many of them. We think it's a lot of startup, but it's not. It's you can you can put the list 1 to 100, even less, and then all of us goes through the same challenges. We're all new here. We all want to build something here, and the only way we can do it is actually by in supporting each other, by advocating for each other, sharing what is happening where, because in UAE it's incredible. There are so many things constantly happening.
Yeah.
Like, yourself, like you are part of this world. Like it's just the amount of the important events, important activities happening. Like it's just impossible to be everywhere.
Yeah.
But the amount of opportunities here in the markets, it's amazing. And the fact how diverse is the communities. It's like I think it's diversity of communities here rather than only one community. It's incredible. So yeah, I never doubted, and especially for the product, as you mentioned, for me, moving to UAE was important because I'm building the algorithm. I say it's an empathetic algorithm. Why? Because we found a new way of basically collecting the data from people in the way that they actually want to share this data, because we give them value back. And to build something like that, you need to be in the epicenter of the most diverse community, right? Because you don't want any algorithm to be biased. So when I had to make a call where I'm moving from Dublin, because I always knew I need to be on the ground when I'm going to be launching the business, I realized that Dubai and Abu Dhabi, in general UAE, is the best opportunity, because when it's 83% of expats living here, the very clear vision for this country being so much consumer-centric and focused, people-focused, values-focused, and with 9 million, if I'm not wrong, 9 million living here, but then 12 million traveling every year, it means that whatever you launch here, if you do good, it will go globally. It will be spread globally by itself. It's a bright product. So yes, here I am.
Possibly made the best decision of your life. I can probably tell you that now. And I know they say, when you start a brand new business or a startup, they say give it 5 years and then you'll know how successful you are. You know how well you've done. But I have absolutely no doubt, Kristina, that you're going to be here for many years to come, in and out. We're going to see you absolutely everywhere. I wish we had more time, because we're going to have to bring you on for season 3, I think, because we have so much more to get through. But I just think your story has been fascinating. And I think you're an absolute trailblazer for what you're doing. And you should be incredibly proud of yourself. I think it's so important for all of us to take moments to acknowledge how far we've come as well.
Yes.
So I hope this is one of those moments for you. I want to encourage everyone to follow you on Instagram and your LinkedIn, because that gives so much more context as to who you are and what you do as well. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast today.
I didn't notice the time at all. It was a surprise for me when you said it. I wish we have more time.
I know, it flies. Yes. The time really flies. But I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. And I'm sure we'll have you back. So thank you.
Thank you so much. The energy in this room was amazing.
Oh,
thank you for that. Thank you.
Women in Leadership, brought to you by Heroncode, the management consultancy for what happens next. For more information, you can visit heroncode.com.